Hi, I'm Scott Jordan, and this is Robert Scoble, and welcome to Tech on Deck.
You're live. Hi guys, we're here on Tech on Deck. Scott Jordan and I are doing this little show for the next 2 days. We explained why we started this morning, but 2 years ago you kept telling me come to the Allen and Company, and Allen and Company is running this big event for media billionaires and magnates, I guess you would call them, right?
Yeah.
And we said, why not throw a show of our own during the Allen Company? We were just over there and meeting some of the billionaires. And here we go. But let's just jump into this because I'm so honored to have Gary Shapiro on the show. And Gary is the guy who runs the Consumer Electronics Association, which puts on the huge Consumer Electronics Show every January and a whole bunch of other events during the year. And he does a lot of work on behalf of the consumer electronics industry. And we have so much to talk about this year. I'm so, I'll be honest, Gary, I usually going into a consumer electronics show, I'm like, what am I going to see? Another TV? I'm going to see maybe a new car. This year, I think my head's exploding with all the new stuff that's coming in the next 12 months. That's just mind-blowing, from HoloLens at Microsoft to connected cars. So let's just jump into this. Welcome to the show.
First of all, Scott, Robert, I am so honored. I think I might be one of your first guests. So it's really exciting. Congratulations on this launch. And I love nothing better than a new product launch. So it's so great to be on this event. I saw it, I thought it was a mosquito fly by. Being in the air-conditioned office here, I'm really kind of happy. Although I would love to be one of those billionaires invited. The Consumer Electronics Association is a nonprofit association of over 2,000 technology companies. And we do own and produce the CES, held each January in Las Vegas. We just came back actually from China, where we had CES Asia we launched in Shanghai a few weeks ago. And that was phenomenally successful, where we had a lot of major brand companies from around the world, great keynotes. And for a first-time launch, almost 30,000 people come, which was really terrific. But in terms of what's going on in the tech world, I feel like it's just not CES. It's just the whole world of innovation and technologies. It's like logarithmic. I mean, things are happening very quickly. There's every day, like you are, I'm meeting innovators that are doing some incredibly amazing things in all sorts of fields, which are affecting us as human beings. And I'm pretty jazzed up and excited.
Well, let's jump into the one that I'm most excited by, virtual reality. I have a Merge VR headset that's coming out. You put your cell phone in, and you can look around my 360 videos that are going to come out over the next year. But I just visited 20th Century Fox, which is making all the movies, and visited their VR labs run by Ted Chilvitz. And amazing stuff is coming from, Valve. Sony has a headset coming out. Oculus Rift from Facebook is coming out. And many of these people or companies have been longtime exhibitors at the Consumer Electronics Show. What have you been seeing in terms of VR? Have you been getting some of the sneak peeks behind the scenes of some of the stuff coming out right around the CES in January?
Well, yeah, virtual reality is huge, and all those companies you named have been involved. Oculus Rift actually is only, I think it was just 2 years ago, they were the corner of another booth. And then they were bought for a couple $2 billion, and now they're big. Of course, they're famous for having solved the problem of motion sickness with virtual reality, if it's truly solved. But look, this is still the very, very beginning for virtual reality. I grew up reading science fiction, and there's a lot of that there in terms of what virtual reality could do. But this is like the Pong portion to video games, what they're doing with regard to virtual reality. It's just the beginning, 10, 20 years from now, we're going to have rooms we're going to go into where we just wear a device in our head and live in our own reality. And there's a lot of, like everything though in innovation, there's great things about that, and there's not great things, and we're just going to have to sort them out and make sure that people can have access to some of these great products that are coming out there. But in the virtual reality area, I think, if you think about it from the development point of view, the integration with the motion picture industry, Fox actually sits on our board at the Associated. We've gone to the content world and said, embrace them, please come work with us. So the display technology we used to think of when I started out, there was one form of display technology. It was a television set, and it was big and fat and ugly, and the biggest thing was color TV, and we went to HDTV. Now, we had a brief flirtation with 3D, which did not work out, but Ultra HD 4K is great. But now we have other screens. We obviously have the tablets, we have smartphones, we have things you wear around your wrist, and now you have things that you wear. And now, Google Glass and other wearables on the eye, they did not meet. Well, they didn't meet initial expectations in terms of where we thought they can go, and I still think there's life there and a chance there. I mean, some of the issues that came about, they did not satisfy me in terms of how they're addressed. For example, facial recognition is a terrific thing, especially for people like me who don't remember people's names. People have Alzheimer's, older people. And that was taken out of the glasses before they were introduced. And there was other issues. Somehow it went from being cool to being threatening to people, that they were being potentially videotaped surreptitiously. But I think there'll be a life for wearables that go way beyond this. As information devices, as aid devices to people that need them, disabled people of all types, and also as virtual reality devices.
Yeah. When you talk about VR, the industry is changing so fast, and in fact, most of the products haven't yet been introduced. People are starting to get early looks at like Valve or Oculus, but most people haven't seen the Crescent Bay prototype that was shown at the Consumer Electronics Show this year. And Oculus had a line around this huge booth to try that out. So people have had maybe 10 minutes with it on their face. They haven't had an hour-long video or played a game like Halo or something like that for 3 or 4 hours. We really haven't seen this hit the marketplace, so we really don't know all of the issues that are going to come up about, do we?
No, we don't. And obviously the developer community is huge in all these product launches, because if you could attract developers to do compelling content, if you think about some other products that were introduced, what we thought would be a great product may not have been. So when you start with the VCR, what we started at was pornography and exercise videotapes. And yet it really ended up being time shifting for movies, which really, time shifting and watching movies, which pushed that and other products along, like the DVD player, Blu-ray, and other memory devices hooked up with a video player. And with video screens, great video screens, what was it? Well, HDTV really didn't come out big because of broadcasters. It was pushed by content from sports. It was pushed by content from movies. So when you're talking about new display technologies, like something you wear on your head, what's the content? Well, we have a history, or the experts have a history of being wrong on it. And I think things evolve over time. I mean, I was
going to ask you, because a lot of people, when I tell people that Oculus and Valve and Sony, the combination of these three headsets, I think are the biggest product introduction since the original iPhone came out. And when I talk to people like that, they're like, well, wasn't 3D supposed to be the next big thing? And I said, this is not 3D. This is going to be a technology, when you put it on your face, it is so mind-blowing and so compelling and so immersive. And it gives you vertigo. It's just absolutely mind-blowing, the stuff I saw at Fox a week ago. And it's not 3D. I'd never had that kind of emotional reaction to a product when I saw 3D. Are you sensing the same thing, or are you sensing there's a real skepticism of the consumer electronics industry here because of 3D and the push that every TV manufacturer gave us for 5 or 6 years on 3D TVs?
Well, I have a view, and I am the paid cheerleader for over 2,000 companies and products. But when 3D technology came with the 3D, not 3D printing, 3D video, I was a skeptic, and it caused me a career crisis. I even went to my board and offered to resign. I said, I don't not believe this is a product. I think it's a feature for some people. but there's too many problems. You can't use it laying down. There's incompatible formats. There's so many reasons that 3D will not work. And my board, thankfully, was very supportive and said, just do what you feel comfortable at. So I actually ended up writing a book about public policy and ended up promoting a book around the world about how to be an innovative country and government. But I still judge products. So like when the iPhone came out, there's an example of a great product with a great launch where everyone wanted one. And when you talk to someone, they were excited about it. So my criteria for judging products is like, you talk to Scoble, is Scoble really excited and jazzed up? But you're not the only one. I mean, and like even recent product launches, some of them you could tell people are may buy a lot because they feel they have to because it's a well-known company, but they don't get that excited about it. The product, they don't process.
This is actually, interestingly, just hearing you guys discuss this, I stay up on all the consumer electronics, but I don't think most people understand this. People can understand 3D. When you talk about 3D, they can get it. But hearing you with such excitement talk about this immersive experience and the history, I'm super excited listening to it. I don't think most people are aware of what it's.
This is going to be the challenge for the consumer electronics industry, is getting people to try a headset and getting them to see compelling content when they try that headset, because when you do, everybody goes, oh my. I mean, I stood outside the Oculus booth at the Consumer Electronics Show because of just what you said. I want to see the light in people's eye. I want to see, do they come out and go, oh my God, that's the best thing I've ever seen? Or do they go, maybe I'll buy one? And every single person coming out of the demo said, holy shit, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want one. I want one now. I'll pay $1,500, $2,000 for it. I'm ready to put my credit card down and buy one.
Wow.
But the problem is, I can't show it to you.
I disagree with that. So let me talk about that. Right. I would push back on that. So look at the car industry. Now, basically, most cars are the same. I mean, they go pretty fast. They're pretty safe. They have seat belts. They have a lot of standard equipment, and they'll get you from point A to point B. But yet the automobile industry has done a phenomenal job of price differentiating to factors of several fold. Well, someone will buy a Maserati or a Jaguar or a Porsche and, go on down all the way to a Kia based on marketing and the experience and what you feel inside the car and what you are showing off to everyone else in the world that you possess.
Yeah.
The truth is, I always think it's easier in the consumer electronics world to show off new technology that's portable. So take every Apple product actually is a portable white, very signature. The Beats product, that red headphones, people would walk down the street and be proud of that owning. Anything you could carry on an airplane and show others, there's a certain, wow, look who I am. This defines who I am. Yeah. I have this product. I think there's an opportunity there in terms of status. Forget the great experience, to show people that you are on an airplane with if they are assuming the airplanes will allow them, you're not like too excited and jumping around in your seat and laughing out loud.
If you're wearing a headset like this, right? Let me put mine on. You look dorky, right? You're looking around.
I have to see the first person airplane who tweets a photo of someone else wearing one of those. That'd be pretty cool. But the actual experience, it goes to the passion of the early adopters and the enthusiasm. So I don't think getting people to try a product like that's going to be a problem. Just the way Google Glass, that was not the problem. People, the way Google did it worked out well. The question I think was that they're still confronting and dealing with, is it a consumer product? Is it a business product? Are we there yet? Does it have enough features? What really happened there that we kind of delayed the full product takeoff? And I think they're still probably talking about it. But on the other hand, look, within that virtual reality, that may be more at the top of the line. You can get $15 like little cutouts from Google and Microsoft and some others that do a little bit of virtual reality, a little bit, a tiny bit.
This is $129, and it actually doesn't have any technology in it. You put your phone in it, just like the Google Cardboard.
Right. So that's more of a middle step.
Yeah, the Oculus Rift and the Valves and the Sonys will be the high-end ones. Probably it'll cost $1,500 for a complete setup. And they have much better latency, better resolution, and more immersion, and better capabilities of playing really interactive video games, which if you're going to play like a Call of Duty that's real virtual reality, you want to be able to throw a lot of triangles on your eye at one time, which needs a high-end computer and a high-end system.
I mean, there's also, like, some people buy them, but there's also business models evolved where you, in a sense, share them. So whether it's camps or it's kids' game, birthday party things where it's interactive, I mean, there's a lot of different alternatives when you have a more expensive product to expose it to a lot of people. I mean, I was at a county fair in the middle of Michigan on Saturday or Sunday, and I was shocked to see that Yelp was there. And Yelp was there marketing themselves, and I thought it was terrific. I mean, it's got a really cool Yelp, thing to put around my wrist. I mean, the point is, companies know how to market themselves when they have a cool product.
So, if I can change the subject for a moment, one of the things that fascinates me most about where consumer electronics are going is automated cars.
Well,
Tesla.
Let's just stick on let's stick on VR, because I think next year is going to be the year of VR. I think the headlines that CNET and Verge and all the press that covers the Consumer Electronics Show is going to be all about VR. GoPro, which makes my virtual reality camera, which has 6 GoPros, they're coming out with 2 cameras early electronics show, and there's a whole bunch of new startups like this 360V camera that does 360. Can you throw that down there? And so, are you seeing this? Are you getting bombarded by vendors who are like, I need a booth at the CES next year because everything is going to be VR next year?
Well, the answer to that question is not just because of VR. VR is one of several exciting categories, and the truth is the self-driving automated car is actually much bigger in many ways, and if you measure it by companies wanting booths and things like that.
And
but
the economic
truth,
impact as well.
Right. So yeah, VR is huge. It will be bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't think it's going to be explosive the way you do. I think it's going to be gradual ramp-ups as the products get better and better and better. And it really depends where the developer community goes. There'll be bumps in the road. There'll be things that happen where all of a sudden people will get upset about it for different reasons. But there's going to be huge opportunity. And there's obviously, depending on the IP situation, there's a lot of growth potential. It's huge.
One of the reasons I have Periscope in my hand, we're live broadcasting on the mobile phone, which is how the world has changed in the past few years. But they're bothering me. What about HoloLens? What about HoloLens? And HoloLens is going to come out probably mid-year next year. I was just at Microsoft and met with a bunch of people in preparation for this. But that's AR. That's augmented reality. I think that's not going to happen until the year after. I think 2017 is going to be the year of AR. I just don't think the software is going to be ready for AR. But do you disagree with me, or have you seen stuff that tells me that I'm wrong?
I would not disagree with you, Robert, because you know so much more than I do, first of all. But again, I really do believe that things don't usually happen as quickly as we think they will. And part of it is price point. Yeah. Part of it is development community. Part of it is IP. And part of it, have we really solved the technical challenges? I mean, it's difficult to go out today and buy a really great VR product where you could get a lot of content. I mean, where is that now?
Yeah.
So there's a lot. We're fueling the excitement, and sometimes our industry fuels the excitement and doesn't produce the product. I want to make sure the product's real, that the content's real, that the development community is behind it. And if you're a developer, you all of a sudden start having to make tough choices which platform you use. Yeah. That's a really tough choice.
I think that's why people on Periscope are so interested in this topic. I mean, and they're not alone. I get a lot of questions. Which one's going to be? Is it going to be Meta? Is it going to be HoloLens? Is it going to be something else like Magic Leap, which Google invested $500 million in this company called Magic Leap, right? And we haven't even seen that product yet. A few of my friends have, and they say it's mind-blowing, but they say it's even further out, 2018 or 2019, before that comes along. So we can talk about futures for all the time, but we want to get to cars, and we want to talk about your house here, because we want to find some cool stuff for your house. Yeah, I mean, you have a beautiful showpiece house here.
So Gary, this home that we just finished building is got more computer and consumer electronic devices than you could possibly imagine, and it really represents what I hope to be the future of how people live. And I'm interested in where you think, computers and consumer electronics are really, truly going to get embedded into homes. And for example, obviously, for me in particular, there were all sorts of communications with refrigerators and appliances. I think that's silliness, personally, from my perspective. I've invested my money in Apple TVs throughout the home and cool lighting systems. I'm really super excited about the Apple's platform, which I can't wait till it comes out. To what degree do you feel that the home automation, and I do want to talk about cars because that's my passion, but before we get there in those 10 minutes we have left, tell me about homes.
Well, I understand everything you're saying, and I agree. My wife and I built our dream house once we found out she was pregnant with our second child. Within like 30 days, we closed on a house to tear down, and we built a house. Now our child is over 3 years old, and we still have workmen coming every day. It's never complete. First of all, I was laughing when you said you finished your house. I don't know if you've ever built a house, but you really never finish a house.
11 months, beginning now.
He's lying. He has people in here fixing the Wi-Fi and putting new lights up and putting new. Well, I'm holding one of the products from a consumer electronics company that sent me a Canary home security device. We're seeing so many new devices that are cloud connected now, that do security, that do, Nest is a good example of this, on and on and on, right?
So first you start with the basics. I mean, I'm not sure who the audience is here, but I was thrilled to see something I've been saying for, well, I've been thrilled to see something I've been saying for 10 years is that people are going to choose their homes on the basis of broadband connectivity as a prerequisite. And now there's actually research which shows that it's just come out, and it's pretty definitive that people are making total home buying decisions about what kind of broadband they can get in that neighborhood with that home. So, I have, in Washington, D.C., I have Verizon Fios, and then I go to Michigan where my family is, and honestly, having one of the cable companies, it's just not as good. So that's a start. Then when you start looking at all the things. We have the
only fiber optic home in the entire downtown area of Ketchum. We could not have run our business in Ketchum with the existing infrastructure that was here until recently.
And that's a reality for businesses.
End of story.
Well, the truth is a lot of people are doing their businesses from home, and that's, you need that. And with a video data-driven world, you need that. So then what is it you want? Now, it turns out I have lived the side of a consumer for the last couple of years, and I understand there's a lot there. There's a lot that's promised, and it takes a lot. And it's frustrating when you just want to turn on TV, and it takes a while. The good news is that the products that succeed increasingly are very easy to be used by consumers and don't take a lot. And the prices have come. Look, when we started building our house, we didn't get any Ultra HD 4Ks because they were over like $10,000 or $15,000 a piece. And I said, this is crazy. We're not going to buy TVs. And our installer said, look, the best price I'm going to just go to Best Buy and get them because that's the best price. Since then, we bought a couple, we bought one within 30 days, we bought another. Number one, the price has come down so much. And number two, it was such a phenomenal viewing experience. But the home control stuff is great. I mean, the fact that, shades go up automatically and things like that, and the lighting systems and all the different things you can do, and they sense when you're there, they sense when you're not. The security features are really terrific. The only one that I still, someday I'm gonna have enough courage to tell my wife, is she insisted we get one of these freaking electronic toilets.
Oh, dude, it's life-changing, life-changing.
I have them. It's life-changing. It tells you that you don't pee fast enough, and it starts shutting down on you. And
get the software upgrade. It's worth it.
You know what? One reason Rackspace was excited by having you on my show was so many of our customers are building cloud computing into these devices. I mean, who imagined you needed an electronic toilet that might report up to the cloud and let you control something from a cell phone, right? If you come in the front door, his door locks are cloud computing connected, right?
Yeah.
He can unlock his front door.
No, they're actually not. No, it's interesting. I mean, having just gone out to the consumer market now, building this home, I see absolutely everything that's available, and they're not. You tap on your finger once, and it's a horrible experience. They're the Kivo locks, and there is nothing that was currently available that is cloud control.
August lost?
What's that?
August locks?
No, I have not seen that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what we have is what I like is that we have a code and we could give it to different people that are coming to our home and they have their own code. So we could set it when they could come in. We know who's using the code. We know who's there. And actually that system, our locking system, I'm very comfortable with. I don't feel like I need cloud computing for a locking system. What we do have is we could figure out via the internet anywhere we are in the world what's going on in our house. And there's so I try to stay away from brands because I'm Switzerland, and so that's why I don't talk about a lot of companies. But what I love about the fact it's gotten really, really inexpensive to put cameras anywhere in your home and watch anything you want, see what's going on with your kids, your babysitter, and we resolve things like that. Like my wife was convinced that some neighbor kid had come over and knocked over a flower pot. And when we played the video, there was a little mini tornado that had occurred. It actually picked this thing, this heavy thing in the air. And what we do is we use these things less for security and more because we're forgetful. We don't remember where we put stuff. So we replay the security cameras and we see, so there's a lot of benefits. I mean, obviously the heating and air conditioning is old hat right now, but there's so many things we're doing with our home that we never would even dream of doing before. And they're solving problems, but it is a mixed bag because getting the things programmed right, getting them to work is not easy yet. It really isn't. Maybe it was for you.
It isn't. You know, I'm tech savvy, and I'm buying consumer-based products, and you know, I've bought some of the ones you've held up here, and they're not plug and play. And until they are, the average consumer isn't going to want them. But you know, I want to talk about the cars, the auto driving cars, because a few things. I think it's going to impact this economy in major ways. Truck drivers are not going to be as needed. When I want to buy a Tesla, and a lot of people don't realize that this is happening now. Like very, very soon.
I do want to be respectful of your time, Gary.
Keep going,
Okay.
whatever you want.
Okay.
All right. And by the way, the people who are watching on Periscope, we're also live streaming this on techondeck2015.com, techondeck2015 with a tripod. People were giving me shit for being very bumpy.
Well,
but let's talk about some of the products that are coming along. I mean, there's products like this that automatic that plug in underneath the dashboard and add some features to the car that exist. You have a lot of old cars. These don't work on those older cars.
No, but the reason is exactly what you said. Until recently, the cars from 1974, I have a 1974 BMW. It does exactly the same thing as a brand new car. For the most part, it drives, it gets you there, but it's until these sorts of improvements come along, self-driving cars will enable me to get in the car from Ketchum, Idaho, press a button in my Tesla once I get on the highway, and be there 11 hours later. And to know that, it together with broadband, allows people to be much more mobile than they ever were to be ever in the past. And this is happening now. I mean, isn't it this summer that Tesla is going to implement the auto drive feature?
Yeah.
As far as I understand it?
I think they can test it, and they have authority to test it. But here's where I agree with you, you're right, but there's two types of people. There are those people like you, and I would even say like me, who view the time in the car as could be better used doing other stuff and stay connected. But then there is a lot of people, and again, I live in the Detroit area, and they say, what? I love driving. This is what I'm about. You're not going to, and even at the CES, we had, I think it was the head of Audi, or was it Mercedes, said, I promise you, we will never make a car where the driver cannot have the option of also driving it. And I think he was wrong. I think
about BMW's positioning statement, the ultimate driving machine, right? And
right.
I think we're going to see. Well, first of all, there's several. I interviewed the guy at BMW at CES who does the autonomous car technology, self-driving car technology, whatever you call it. He says there's actually 7 steps to a fully self-driving car that can drive around without a human in it and can go to a specific address and pick somebody up, something like that. I think that's what you want, right? You want to fully.
Absolutely. But I always want the option to drive the car itself. I mean, I can eat at a fancy restaurant, you know, and have a 2-hour meal, but I can go to McDonald's for the time. I mean, so I love.
But you might have different cars for that. For the car that you could drive yourself, you may want an experienced car. But for the car that's self-driving, you may want a car that's decked out with an easy seat where you're, you know, that's what the. So look, that's the goal. the goal of the
Yes.
self-driving car, because number one, it's just not about experience. It will save like literally millions of lives and tragedies and bad things that happen to people that
And
shouldn't
the
happen. And
hospital healthcare
therefore,
costs.
and you're right, it'll affect,
It's
it'll
exponential.
emergency room doctors, body shops,
Goes
replacement
away.
vehicle. It's going to change a lot of, think of all the truck drivers and cab drivers. I mean, literally it's going to affect millions of jobs around the world in businesses, no question. And
You
we're going
see
to
the
get there.
skepticism, by the way, Gary, right in my hand. Somebody says, I don't want to trust my life to a computer. I think that
they
guy
will.
is absolutely wrong.
I won't.
Anyone
I
who
don't
gets
wanna
into an
trust my life
airplane
to
is doing
an
that.
idiot next to me.
I mean, it's, you're getting into an airplane where there's really no good option if you crash. So you're doing that already. But the reality is there are steps we're already taking. So, you know, any recent car has the backup beeping. You know, the problem is you get into a friend's car, something that doesn't have it, you hit the car behind you because you're so used to it, or the cameras that are there. There's cars that are being sold today that have active collision avoidance. They'll see a car 2 cars ahead of you, and they'll move away. I'm seeing technology that's aftermarket technology, which is fascinating. You plug it in the car, and you could see everything about the car and how it's operating, or how your teenage son, where they're taking it, what they're doing, and what speeds they're going, and it's all recorded, or you could access it. Or you could put a cell phone in a car, and the cell phone itself knows you're the driver because of where it's located versus the steering wheel and the magnetism of the metal in the steering. And it could do all these sorts of things. It'll start vibrating if you're falling asleep because it knows you're falling asleep because of the apps in it. And all this is in the aftermarket. This isn't in the car itself. But those are steps to get to this great car that drives itself, which solves, in the Washington world, and the world of, you know, these texting while driving tragedies are really heart-wrenching, and so they will be solved, which is a good thing.
I think
And then people,
even when you have a car that can drive itself, you know, 10 years, 20 years from now, you can probably have a car like a BMW, because we drove to Craters of the Moon the other day, and there was no traffic. It was a beautiful road. It was the kind of road you want to drive on, right? It was the American dream. We were celebrating driving on this road because it was such a great experience to drive. But you're going to have a mode where it's going to let you drive the car or think you're driving the car, and it's going to keep you from killing yourself because it's going to know how fast it can go, how far it can push the tires on traction, and where all the traffic is.
And respond to weather. But if you're disabled, if you're elderly, if you're drunk, that self-driving car is going to change your life. And there should be no drunken driving incidents in the future. I mean, there's so many things that people that are affected. I mean, we're out there, we're healthy.
In our
lifetime.
Well, certainly my son's lifetime.
Oh, no, you know, but I think certainly in our lifetimes. I'm 50 years old. Within, 20 years, I think that this is going to be, commonplace. And I think within 5 years, you'll start seeing it more and more. So that to me is one of the most exciting things.
It is exciting. It is exciting, but I don't want to understate the hurdles that have to be crossed to get there. You have to get basically logic and software and a car that recognizes the difference between a bush and a dog or a person. And there's so many things that have to happen, and you have to make decisions.
Does that already happen though?
Not really. It's difficult. Or when we have 2 self-driving cars coming. Now with the cell phone solution, you could have 2 cars and there'll be Wi-Fi between them where there'll be phone to phone. You'll know that you have 2 cars coming at each other and they can make decisions and tell each what to do. But what do you do when some cars have it, some cars don't? Some cars will be self-driving, others won't. You have to make split-second decisions. They're surmountable, but it's tough.
Everybody should watch the TED video from the guy who runs the Google self-driving car team, and he shows how the technology works, and it does work for all of those scenarios. It is amazing because it predicts what everybody on the road is going to do, whether a kid is going to cross the road in front of you by breaking the rules of the road, and whether the car is going to have to slow down and stop for that kid. All sorts of stuff, fun stuff. But we have to prove it to people. And we have to prove it to the legislators. And we have to prove it to the lawyers. And we have to prove it to the insurance companies. There's a lot of hurdles between just showing it on a TED video that it works to getting people who are, arguing with me right now on Periscope whether they're going to buy one or not, right?
Well, so take the Google's, just so you know, Google's not the only company that can do this. They're the only non-car company. The car companies, almost every one of them is doing stuff. They don't want to ruin their reputation. Now, the Google cars had a number, about a dozen accidents. Not because of, they haven't, but they've been rear-ended. Why? Well, that self-driving car stops at yellow lights. How many of us stop at yellow lights? You know, they are slow to get off, and they have to make sure that light's really green. That's a tough thing to train a car to know what light's actually really green. I mean, there are issues that have come up which still have to be resolved. So to mimic the human driving experience is tough.
I remember before ABS brakes came out, I was in law school at the time, and the biggest concern was whether including ABS brakes enables the car in front to stop so much faster than the car in back, that who would be responsible for that accident. I mean, this was a big deal.
And how many lawsuits have been brought? Zero.
What's that? I'm sorry?
How many
But it really
lawsuits have been
has.
brought?
That was a overstated concern.
Therefore, you know, that people will adapt. My point is that people will adapt to ultimately logical and better technology, and they'll understand that before long, the car in front of you that says self-driving in some fashion is likely going to not go through a yellow light and the like.
But let's just talk a little bit, because you wrote one of the important books on innovation and disruption. Where do you think the consumer electronics industry is challenged by these new technologies that are coming out? Is it privacy? Is it disbelief that the technology actually works, like I'm seeing in my Periscope right now? Is it legislation of some kind that I'm not aware of? Where do you think the disruption is happening? Is it Uber-style companies that are bringing disruption, or is it legislators who are going to disrupt the disruptors?
Those are all good questions. What keeps me awake at night, because of my job, is the thought that government will do things, will stop innovation. For example, in France, with the riots against Uber that the police didn't even really stop. I mean, violent riots. Why? Because taxi drivers were fearful. You know, and I understand they're fearful, but Uber's obviously, you know, competition is healthy. And we see that everywhere there is. You see it against Airbnb, you see it against others, that every time something new comes along and disrupts, it's affecting somebody else who doesn't like it, and they're going to try to use government to stop it. And there's so many areas, you just mentioned a few. Take facial recognition. That's a big deal. Take, there's technology which allows you to analyze voice as to what someone's emotion is, and plus micro cues on your face. They could say whether you're lying or not. That's going to be out there. That's going to be out there, and politicians are going to try to stop that. There's stuff.
Well, some of the coolest products coming out, like Amazon's Echo, is a cylinder that you leave in your kitchen, and you talk to it. You ask it, Alexa, what's the weather? Alexa, buy me some more toilet paper. Alexa, you know, all sorts of questions and things, and it's listening to you full on. That's a huge shift in consumer behavior.
Well, it's a real it's a 3D Siri that works and does stuff for you. But there's a lot of this. So the debate in Washington now is about encryption, and you know, the federal FBI wants every technology product basically so they could get in a back door. And there's a lot of skepticism in our industry saying, you want us to trust you to go into all our products. Why? And, you know, there's Americans who work at these companies. We love our country, but there's a little skepticism on our part. So there's issues of privacy. There's issues of cameras being everywhere and the Internet of Things picking up all this information. What happens with that information? Who owns information? Who owns information even in your car that car companies and others are starting to get? There's literally thousands of issues that are coming up because of technology. And our goal is to make sure that whatever the crazy path of innovation, unless there's a really clear danger and a very specific way of addressing that danger, government should do its best to just stay out of the way. And it's a very difficult argument to have to people who feel that they are hired by the citizens to safeguard them from bad things that could happen, like that car that breaks in front of you or something else like that. So these are really difficult issues being described in Washington, but we have history on our side because every effort at screwing up with innovation has had bad results. Like going back to the VC of this famous Sony Betamax case of 1985, where Hollywood tried to make it illegal. That was bad on Hollywood's part, and they said they were wrong ultimately because it made them a lot of money. So now we have to keep going in every new technology that comes along and fight for it to be legal. Look, sometimes Silicon Valley has it wrong on net neutrality issue, which Silicon Valley seemed to think net neutrality was such a great thing. They proposed a solution, which in my view is pretty horrible. I agree with net neutrality, but now you have to go to the government, you have to ask the FCC for permission before you introduce new products or services, and we're already seeing that, them shutting down companies in terms of what they can offer, and huge penalties and fines if you don't go to them first. It's gotten pretty ugly pretty quickly.
Think about all the products we just showed you. They're all enabled by the internet. I mean, you're talking to me on a Cisco video conference system through WebEx. That's enabled by the internet. If we didn't have net neutrality, we wouldn't see as much innovation in this space. At least that's the way I perceive my industry trying to stick up for net neutrality, right?
But we've had net neutrality, and it was fine. It was always there. And so the government stepped in and regulated something that didn't need to be regulated. I was there 15 years ago saying, don't regulate it, just stick with these principles. And we all agree on the principles, and
But
it
where's
worked.
the friction? Is it because cable companies got to almost monopoly status, or monopoly status in a lot of places, so that they are starting to try to price things differently? Because they're seeing things like this 360 video camera. This thing can generate gigabytes of data. And if you're watching somewhere else in the world on your Oculus Rift, and you're throwing that data over an internet line, that's going to put a huge cost on the internet, right? If we're doing this at scale. And
If you're doing it at scale. So the question is,
they're wondering how to make money with this new world where we're going to be throwing a lot of video data over the internet, and a lot of other data too. I mean, look at all the Internet of Things that are coming along that are talking to other things on the internet. We're going to be using our networks in far different ways in the future. And the cable companies are like, how are we going to make money with this?
well, they're
I
making.
imagine that they're talking about these very same issues a mile down the road.
Yeah.
And that's really what's intriguing to me about doing this event for Tech on Deck, is to be able to talk to guys like you about what is really happening on the bleeding edge and try to understand how it's going to impact us as consumers and business people and entrepreneurs moving forward. And I think that listening to this conversation, it validates this, that over the past 10 years, the consumer electronics market has been nowhere nearly as exciting as it's going to be. I mean, these are things that are going to fundamentally change our lives, whether we realize it or not. In terms of net neutrality, my view is I think you should charge for the consumption. I have a big pipe, I pay for it. I should pay, just like cell phone minutes. If I use a lot of internet, I should pay for more. But there should be some things, a certain level at which is a right, not a privilege. I mean, you should get X number of gigabytes a month or something like that.
And parallel to that, which makes it even better, is that our goal is to get as much competition among different broadband providers as possible. If you have a choice of broadband providers, then let them fight it out. And as long as they don't change their policies, or you can get out of your contract, the consumer wins. And that's what we've been trying to do with Fios versus cable and thank God for Wi-Fi, which has solved a lot of the problems here. I mean, but there's different flavors of Wi-Fi. There's more coming, so you could have phone-to-phone communication, and even Powerline has, and satellites provide some broadband. So that's what we want, and that's where we should be going as a country.
Very cool. Thanks so much, Gary. I mean, I could spend hours with you. You and I get together once in a while. And we're going to do this again at South by Southwest, I think. I don't want to pre-announce anything, but I think we're going to try to do something like that next year.
I hope so.
Or at CES. I'm certainly coming to CES.
Well, we hope to see both there. And congratulations. Good luck with
that
that home. I want to talk to you in a year and see if you're still working on it.
Well, no, Gary, we're going to come back. We're going to do a segment, and I'm going to give you a tour, if you would let me, and show you all the stuff at a later date. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. You know, I want to thank all our sponsors. Cisco, of course, for which we couldn't be doing any of this. We had teams of Cisco people setting this up at last minute. Rackspace, your boss, and a great company.
Wow. Paying me to go around and study all the companies that are building all this stuff, you know?
I got to tell you, I had a phone call today with several people. It's really important, and whoever was our conference system set that. Thank God we had a Cisco guy on the call. He said, let me set you up. And within 3 minutes, he had us all, and we were looking at each other.
Unbelievable.
And so I became a Cisco fan today.
They're pros. New tech for the TriCaster and Syringa and Ustream as well. additional sponsors. Thanks so much, Gary.
And hey, you know, thanks Scott for providing us.
Scotty
these great
vest, I forgot.
clothes.
Great clothes.
Gary,
We
I
gotta
don't know
get
if
you a
noticed
package.
this, but Gary's pockets go way down here, so you can put a lot of consumer electronics gear.
It's true. I
in your
mean, you know,
pockets.
that's why I started Scotty Vest. I love gadgets, and I wanted to buy more and more and ran out of pockets to do it. I was a frustrated lawyer, so I came up with the company Scotty Vest, and here I am. So
Yeah.
got the best.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you
Thanks,
guys. It's
Gary.
been fun.
Thank you, Gary.
It was
Take
awesome.
care.
And thanks to Periscope guys. We're going to
Thank
cut
you,
off.
Periscope.
Thank you.
We're out of here.
All right.
Take care. You can stay on, Gary, if you want.